Welcome to the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast, where we explore the latest in enterprise trends, tech, and strategy with the top leaders and influencers shaping the future.
Hi, we welcome you to a podcast on stage with enterprise thought leaders. My name is Kanika, and I'm the managing editor of Talk CMO and Talk Martech, our two enterprise marketing technology publications. We have engaging conversations with global thought leaders and industry experts, which reach over 1.3 million business leaders worldwide. Recently, Perion Network, a company that works with advanced technology solutions for complex modern advertising, has started using a cutting edge AI platform that creates custom algorithms for campaign level optimizations across walled garden platforms. This underscores the significance of AI tools in this sector. To understand more about the future of AI tools in green processes for advertising, today we speak with Michael Hanbury-Williams, who is Perion's managing director. Welcome to the show, Michael. It's great to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
A little bit of introduction to Michael. He joined Perion AI, which was formerly Greenbids, in 2024 to head up the company's UK operation and expansion plans. His responsibilities include leading client relationships, overseeing the growth of product and sales teams, and establishing the company as a leader in delivering better media quality by enhancing performance, efficiency, and sustainability. Michael has extensive experience across digital campaign planning and management and data and innovation consultancy, as well as sustainability and purpose. Prior to Perion, he spent 8 years at Universal McCann, London, the leading global media network in IPG Mediabrands, where he was most recently head of sustainability and purpose across EMEA. He's been involved in AdNext Zero since its inception and won the 2024 Marketing Research Society's Sustainability Changemaker of the Year award. So I can see a lot of interesting information should be coming from you about sustainable practices in advertising and the use of technology while doing that, right?
That's the hope. Yeah.
Thanks. We hope so too. So the first question, the first topic we'd like to discuss with you is, how does an efficient strategy contribute to sustainable media? And we're talking in the context of advertising media.
Cool. Thank you, Kanika. So yeah, I think over the last, let's say, 5 or so years, there's been increased interest in the topic of sustainable media. I know certainly when I started in programmatic advertising 15 or so years ago, it was not a consideration at all. So I'm very happy that the industry at least has some sort of familiarity with what sustainable media means. I think over time, sustainability is a big topic, right? It covers energy, it covers diversity, inclusion. It's a lot of different things. But within advertising and advertising technology, particularly for online advertising, there's a increased understanding that when you serve billions of ad impressions, there is an energy cost associated with that. I know, it's people still like to think often that what you see on the internet is this magical thing that just appears on your phone whenever you log into a web page. But actually, behind the scenes, there are thousands and thousands of different companies all talking to each other within a split second to make a decision on whether to serve you an ad at that time or not. And obviously, those companies have lots and lots and lots of data centers to make those decisions. So there's an actual physical cost to this that thankfully the industry is now sort of recognizing. We have a long way to go, and it's still not the most important thing to all marketers, but I'm quietly confident that we're heading in the right direction for that. And I think, to answer your question a little bit more specifically, there is a very, very strong correlation with efficiency and sustainability with regards to online advertising. So if you improve the effectiveness of your campaigns, if you cut out poor performing sites, if you cut out some of the waste in inverted commas, in the broadest sense of what waste might be on your advertising campaigns, almost always that has a very strong correlation with reducing the energy cost of your ad campaigns, because ultimately, an advert that you serve to a bot is not a good use of your of your money or energy, right? And an ad that is served that isn't viewed by a human for the necessary amount of time for that impression to make a sort of a memory structure in that person's brain, you're not going to be remembered. So it's also a waste of money and a waste of energy. So what we found is that even if sort of top line interest in green advertising in its sort of broad sense comes and goes, it's quite a political, it's obviously quite a political hot topic at the moment. Although interest in the industry for green solutions comes and goes, ultimately, interest in ROI and efficiency and effectiveness, that's never going to go away. So what we're proving is that if you can deliver increased ROI or deliver increased efficiency for our clients, every single CMO and brand manager is always going to want better ROI or better marketing effectiveness. So if you can talk to them in those terms, and sustainability is a nice sort of co-benefit or nice to have, then everyone's a winner. Ultimately, it's about doing more with less, and that is something that I hope is going to be even more important over the coming years.
Yeah, so I was just about to comment the same thing. Optimizing your computing requirements would probably contribute to more energy efficiency, and that is a very direct a correlation. And of course, this kind of optimization will also help to cut costs. So yep. Everybody's happy in the end. So that's how it will work.
Yeah.
So what levers do you think a chief marketing officer would have available to run a successful and sustainable media strategy? And tools and more, I think strategy as well as tools.
Yeah. So I think we work with lots of CMOs, and I think it's one of the most difficult jobs in an advertising and a marketing department. It's maybe never been harder to be a CMO because you have thousands and thousands of different platforms and tech providers who are all touting their wares. You have to be an expert in so many different channels that are changing every 5 years. Some new channel comes along, and you have to reinvent your department and redefine effectiveness to the CFO, to prove your job, which is sort of what makes it fun as well. I think the CFO's role, I would say, is fairly consistent, although they might disagree. But I feel like CMO, I've seen a lot of change in the industry, even in the 15-ish years that I've been in the industry, and given AI and the rate of change in the industry, I can only see it increasing. So, I think that knowing how to navigate a very complex landscape is one of the largest hurdles that any CMO has. So I think if you are able to consolidate platforms, consolidate the way in to how you're spending your media marketing, that's certainly one of the ways where you can be more sustainable and more efficient, right? If you're having to deal with multiple platforms that make it very difficult to split out audiences and that sort of thing, you're duplicating work, obviously, but you're also potentially duplicating media delivery and wasting impressions that you don't necessarily need to serve. So trying to unify the approach to media delivery is one way, certainly, that you can be more sustainable. I think another one is knowing what the business outcome is you're trying to optimize for is really, really important. So online platforms are very good at optimizing to spend all the budget within a given amount of time using the proxies for performance that are available in those platforms, right? So yes, online conversions, great, but if you're an advertiser who the majority of your sales happen offline, not in an app, or not with logged in data, yes, optimizing to some of your online metrics might correlate, but actually it might not correlate at all, right? So are there other metrics that you can optimize your campaigns towards, like, attention or viewability or brand safety or these things that actually have a stronger correlation with true business outcomes, as opposed to the platforms just saying, yep, it's really working because we're marking our own homework and you can continue to give us more money. So I think that's where we're starting to get to, where CMOs can be more prescriptive in what good looks like for their specific business context, and then taking a variety of different data sources and combining them to create that real close proxy for business outcomes. I think that's really, really important. And we're seeing, that's the space that we play in. And I think it's going to be a growing sector over the coming years. Hopefully, I hope so, at least for us. And then I think, another key one is some of those like curated marketplaces where, the supply is more sustainable, for lack of a better word. You're cutting out resellers, you're cutting out some of those poor quality stuff, and you're going to inventory sources where you can vouch for the quality. It's been externally vetted. There's more and more of those options available to CMOs. So we want CMOs to have the maximum confidence in their media buying capabilities. And thankfully, the tools and the data sources are coming along leaps and bounds every year to give that sort of control back to the CMO to actually be prescriptive about where they want to spend their money, how they want to spend their money to drive true business outcomes.
And then at the end of the day, it all comes down to the highest ROI and, the technology which helps them optimize the cost the most. Right.
Of course. And yeah, I think it's finding that balance between efficiency, the cheapest possible. Yeah, exactly. Efficiency, cost, and effectiveness.
Right.
Are you better off spending slightly more on a CPM basis because it's 10x more efficient from a true, business outcome? So it's that. I think there is an increasing understanding that cheap reach at all costs is not necessarily, the way to go long term. So it's been a sort of a race to the bottom, as it were. And I think like the control and that notion of quality and effectiveness is starting to be much more prevalent for, large advertisers who are the ones spending, the most money in these platforms.
Right. Would you say digital advertising is compatible with sustainability in the sense of environmental sustainability?
It's a tough one. I mean, I think the short answer is yes. The short answer is every industry has a duty and a requirement to, do more with less, be efficient, reduce the energy intensity of their product or service. That's the same for all industries. So digital advertising has to take its share of that. Advertising in general, to be honest, has to do its part. I think the asterisk to that is that, there is a difference between reducing harm, in this case, energy emissions from, energy, carbon emissions from energy, and doing good, for lack of a better word. Because, true sustainability in that sense is not necessarily compatible with capitalism and, selling things to whoever they want at all costs. But we're getting much better at the former in terms of reducing the cost or reducing the harm that our industry is having through some of these advanced tools where you are able to quantify the energy associated with serving 1 million ads on video or social or whatever, and being able to report back to the sustainability team or the CFO once a quarter to say we've delivered the same amount of impressions for 30% less energy. That's a good thing because we've saved costs and it is contributing to our net zero targets or our sustainability targets if the business has some of those larger ones. So yeah, yes, with a slight asterisk in as much as business to be truly sustainable isn't always compatible with the current economic model across the world.
That is true, but just out of curiosity, I wanted to ask you, we are also talking about AI tools here.
Of course.
Do they not add to the computational energy dissipation and all of that?
Yeah, and that's sort of, that's the elephant in the room, is that
That's the asterisk to the yes.
So yes, it is. And, even, let's say, climate leaders within the advertising and technology space for the last 50 years, or 30 years, even Google and Microsoft, who've had very ambitious sustainability goals since their inception. If you look at some of their recent reports, their annual sustainability reports, they should be reducing their emissions every year by a certain percentage. And because of the huge investment in AI tools and increased data centers required to power those AI tools, their emissions have actually gone up. Some quite dramatically so. And so this is the sort of tightrope, I would say, that the tech industry is treading at the moment, is that used frugally and responsibly, AI tools can certainly be a net positive in terms of the sustainability journey and mission, but they have to be done and used responsibly and frugally. And I wouldn't say that many companies have got that balance perfect yet. I also think, Nick, it's worth sort of separating a little bit maybe some of the different AI. AI is obviously a big catch-all term. And although, yes, the sort of the large language models that are taking up a lot of energy for right now is certainly something that needs to be looked at and reduced. But the advertising industry, the online ad industry, has used a subset of AI machine learning for many, many years already, which doesn't require quite the same amount of computational power to create those large language models. So, and the same for the generative AI, all the creative use cases that are coming out of some of the big AdTech holdings. We've been using machine learning in the online advertising space for many, many years, and that doesn't come with quite the same operational carbon footprint that some of these new generative AI tools do.
Because, very recently I read somewhere that even for something as simple as asking ChatGPT with the prompt, if you use please, the energy consumption goes up by many points. And thank you itself, could cost the company in terms of sustainable energy.
Just by being polite. Are you telling everyone that we need to be less polite with
Yes.
our large language models?
So it goes, we don't need to be polite to ChatGPT or bots anymore, I'm guessing. All right. So the last question, Perion is a sustainable and sustainable ad technology. How does that work, and what kind of impact could more sustainable digital advertising have on the industry? Being sustainable is one thing. Being successful as a digital marketer or an advertiser is another. How would you walk that tightrope? How would you keep that balance?
Well, I think it's, to maybe what I said at the beginning, it's like doing good business practice and effective business practice for your particular client, and achieving the sustainability goals as a sort of byproduct of just doing what you do. Because you mentioned, my background is sort of originally digital advertising, and then I did some sustainability work within the media space. And I found that if you only sold sustainability, if that was your reason to be, then you would always struggle, because then you appear as a cost. You might see one campaign a year, for that particular advertiser. And your impact would be reduced. Whereas if you can prove the effectiveness of your solution from an ROI point of view, or whatever your business outcome, your KPI is, then the sustainability point is just an added benefit. It's just a nice to have that no one's going to say no to. If it's just happening without being a priority, if it's just happening anyway, then everyone's a winner. So ultimately, what Perion Algo does is in real time predict and weigh up the estimated performance of an ad impression based on the custom bespoke definitions that every single advertiser can choose, and weighing that up with a predicted carbon score for that ad. So, like as a simple example, if an ad is served at a particular time of day where there's more green energy in the grid, it requires less carbon than at a different time of day when the grid is powered more by non-renewable sources. Same too for the website it appears on. If the website is a website that has loads of ad tech stuffed into it with loads of ad slots, and all of those partners have to talk to all the other partners in the supply chain, that is a very carbon intensive website. Whereas you have another website that has a smaller number of partners, more direct inventory, it's less carbon. So we're making those decisions in real time. We're building the algorithm in real time to decide whether to bid slightly more, slightly less, or not at all for that ad impression. And by overriding what the standard algorithm wants to do to that campaign, by making those decisions, we're able to optimize towards true business outcomes and a reduction in carbon that most of the platforms don't do at all. So yeah, it's reducing waste, it's stretching and shaping campaigns to best fit an advertiser's true desires, true goals for a campaign. And ultimately, our promise is really to have as much impact as possible to sort of clean up the online ad supply chain from a purely like waste removal point of view, but then also just giving the control back to the advertisers to be able to set up campaigns and optimize campaigns towards what truly matters to them and what is truly meaningful and impactful to them as a business, both on the commercial side and the sustainability side, which for every advertiser, that balance looks slightly different. Some advertisers might be all in performance and just report on the carbon savings. Others might be all in on carbon reduction and, by the way, make sure we beat our benchmarks, but focus on the carbon side. So it's quite fun having lots of different clients where that balance is, it's a discussion to be had as part of my leadership role, is to find out from our clients where their balance is. And so, yeah, that makes every day pretty fun.
It makes a tightrope walk very exciting.
Yeah, it's a tightrope with, the tightrope is being moved every day and swung from side to side, and there's new sharks and all sorts of other things happening underneath the tightrope to keep it entertaining.
Yes. So these are the questions, pointers, whatever you want to call it, I had. Is there something I missed that you think our CMO audiences would want to know?
I think it's just, ask more questions of your existing setup. I think there's a habit and a sort of tendency for very, understandable reasons to just trust the platform, trust what the platform's saying as standard, trust how your money's being allocated. And that's not always what's in your best interest as a CMO. You know your brand better than any platform, your business better than any platform will ever do. So you need to sort of make sure you're asking the right questions, asking for transparency and, all of those things that actually allow you to, maximize, make the platforms and the supply chain work for you as opposed to the other way around. And that's a sort of power balance that I think marketers are now, starting to see, and there are, tools like Perion and others that exist to be able to, get that quality back and surface that data that really defines what good looks like for every single marketer. So yeah, it's certainly an exciting time to be a CMO.
Very exciting. Of all the tightropes and all the balance that's required and all the investigations that should go in, the right questions that should be answered, they have to be part businessmen in addition to being creative marketeers or planners or strategists. So yes,
You
very
have to wear
exciting.
you have to wear a lot of
Lot of
hats.
yeah.
A lot of hats.
So I think this is it for us. Thank you so much for your time. Very interesting conversation. If it is just technology, it's sometimes difficult to follow, but speaking to you was interesting because we could understand all of it. So thank you so much.
I'm glad. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.